What if the most important trip you take this year is the one that sends you home different? These 10 Catholic sites are thresholds. Cross them, and the ordinary starts to speak. Each holds a story of prayer, mercy, and a single quiet yes that changed a life. Which one is calling you? If you've been to one of these, tell us what you think. 10. Assisi, the Song of Simplicity and Peace. Set in the soft hills of Umbria, Assisi welcomes nearly 1 million pilgrims each year, not with spectacle, but with quiet. This is the birthplace of Saint Francis, who renounced wealth to live in radical poverty and saw the face of God in lepers, sparrows, and sunbeams. It is also home to Saint Clare, whose hidden strength and purity founded an order of women walking the same path of joyful surrender. The town feels carved from prayer. Cobbled lanes, medieval facades, frescoed chapels, and bell towers above olive groves. The Basilica of St. Francis, set into the hillside, holds his tomb and Giotto's luminous frescoes telling the life of the Poverello. Pilgrims file into the crypt in silence, resting a hand on the stone near his grave. On the plain below, at Santa Maria degli Anceli, the tiny Porziuncola, cradle of the order, now rests inside a great basilica. Assisi doesn't preach, it hums. It doesn't dazzle, it draws you inward. Here, simplicity is abundance, and peace is the ground beneath your feet. 9. Knock, the silent apparition that speaks volumes. In the village of Knock, County Mayo, Ireland, more than 1.5 million pilgrims come each year to honor a uniquely silent Marian apparition. On August 21, 1879, 15 villagers, children and elders together, saw a radiant vision at the gable wall of the parish church. In brilliant light stood the Blessed Virgin Mary, with Saint Joseph and Saint John the Evangelist beside her. An altar appeared with a lamb, the symbol of Christ, surrounded by angels. No words, no gestures, no message, only a presence that asked nothing and gave everything. Today, the Knock Shrine includes the original parish church, the Basilica of Our Lady, and a large pilgrimage center. During the August Novena, pilgrims light candles, join barefoot processions, and enter the Apparition Chapel, where a sculpture now marks the scene as described by the witnesses. The atmosphere remains hushed and reverent, as if the vision still lingers just beyond hearing. 8. St. Peter's Basilica, the living rock of the church. To stand before St. Peter's Basilica is to stand where stone testifies and silence prays. Beneath the dome and grand facade rests what matters most, the tomb of St. Peter, the fisherman Christ chose as the rock of the church, enduring persecution, renewal, and global change, yet here still, solid, immovable, alive. Every detail bears centuries of faith: Michelangelo's Pietà, sorrow and grace in marble, Bernini's bronze baldachin over the high altar, its spirals reaching like faith itself. This isn't a museum, it's the living heart of the Catholic world, where bishops kneel before mission, popes bless pilgrims in St. Peter's Square, and prayers rise from every nation. Join a papal mass, light a quiet candle, or rest near the Blessed Sacrament, and you feel it, belonging to something older and steadier than any empire. In an age that calls faith fragile, St. Peter's stands like a lighthouse of perseverance and hope, the Church's anchor. 7. Fatima, the prophecy of peace and conversion. Among Portugal's olive groves, Fatima changed the world in 1917. On a rural field, 3 shepherd children, Lucia, Francisco, Jacinta, spoke of a radiant lady above a small oak, brighter than the sun. On October 13th, more than 70,000 stood in the rain as the clouds split and the sun seemed to whirl and plunge, colors washing over earth and faces. Since then, Fatima has become a place of return. 4-5 million pilgrims come each year, some barefoot, rosaries worn smooth, gathering at the Chapel of the Apparitions and joining candlelit processions at night. In Our Lady's crown rests the bullet that nearly killed St. John Paul II, who credited her with saving his life. She came without thunder, but with sorrow and urgency, calling for prayer, penance, and devotion to her immaculate heart, warning of errors spreading from Russia, asking simply for the daily rosary. Fatima changed the world in 1917. Implicit repetition merged visually. A6. Lourdes, the waters that heal the world. At the foot of the Pyrenees, Lourdes is where faith is felt, like breath and fire. In 1858, Bernadette Soubirous, a poor teenager, saw a lady in white crowned with roses in a rocky grotto. At the lady's request, Bernadette scraped the ground, a hidden spring began to flow, and it has never stopped. Today that spring feeds baths and fountains for millions. Each year, 3.54 million pilgrims arrive, some silent, some singing, some carried on stretchers, others leaning on canes. At night, candlelight processions move like a river of prayer. In the underground basilica, thousands attend Mass in many languages. At the grotto, people kneel on cold stone, press hands to damp rock, and wait, as if the veil between heaven and earth thins just enough for grace to pass through. 5. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where death was defeated in the Old City of Jerusalem. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the most sacred site in Christendom, draws about 3 million pilgrims each year. Under weathered domes lie two of Christianity's most venerated places, Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified, and the empty tomb from which he rose, joined within one complex so pilgrims can stand at the cross and kneel at the tomb within moments. The journey begins on the Via Dolorosa, a narrow path through the markets marked by the 14 stations. Some walk in silence, others pray aloud, some shoulder wooden crosses. Custodianship is shared: Greek Orthodox, Armenian Apostolic, Roman Catholic, Coptic, Syriac, and Ethiopian, by a delicate agreement that governs even lamps and processions. Ceilings are blackened with centuries of soot, crusader crosses are carved into stone. Pilgrims press their foreheads to rock that bore grief and glory. If you could light a candle here today, between Calvary and the empty tomb, what would you pray for? Tell us in the comments. 4. Our Lady of Lavang, the Vietnamese miracle in the jungle. Deep in Quang Tri province, the shrine of Our Lady of Lavang welcomes 700,000 pilgrims yearly, drawn by a miracle born in fire and fear. In 1798, amid persecution under the Nguyen dynasty, Catholics fled to the forest whispering the rosary beneath the trees. There the Virgin Mary appeared, dressed in traditional Vietnamese clothing, offering consoling words and bundles of native herbs for healing. Today, a basilica and sanctuary rise on that ground, crowned by a towering statue of Our Lady with arms open. Around the Assumption in August, pilgrimages swell into seas of color, chants, and prayer. Some come seeking healing, others to honor ancestors who risked everything for the faith. All come for a story that still beats in a nation's heart. 3. Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the heartbeat of the Americas. Nowhere matches the devotion of Our Lady of Guadalupe, beloved across Mexico and the Americas. Each year, 10-12 million pilgrims arrive, not for spectacle, but to kneel where heaven once touched earth. In 1531 on Tepeyac, Mary appeared to Juan Diego, a poor indigenous man. She spoke in Nahuatl, called him my little son, and asked for a church where she could hear the cries of the poor. When the bishop asked for a sign, roses bloomed in winter, and on Juan Diego's tilma appeared her image, radiant, dark-skinned, and expectant with divine mystery. Pilgrims still walk for days, sleep by roadsides, fast in silence, and cross the plaza on their knees. In La Morenita's gaze, migrants find protection, mothers find strength, and nations rediscover dignity. This is more than a basilica. It is a living altar of mercy, a place where heaven keeps whispering through the faith of the poor. If you seek a thin place where grace awakens a life, make the journey, before you die, to the hill where a humble man opened his arms and the Mother of God came to stay. 2. Jasna-Gora, the fortress of Mary and courage. On the hill at Czestochowa, the fortified monastery of Jasna-Gora stands as the spiritual heart of Poland. At the center is the Black Madonna of Czestochowa, a miraculous icon, darkened with age and marked by 2 scars on her right cheek from a 15th century attack that failed to destroy her image. For centuries, Polish Catholics turned to her in fear, exile, war, and betrayal. During the Swedish deluge of the 1600s, Jasna-Gora's unlikely defense became a national rallying cry. Under Nazi occupation and later communist rule, the faithful still came, sometimes in secret, rosaries clenched, prayers whispered under the eyes of soldiers. Inside the chapel of the Black Madonna, the icon is unveiled daily as thousands kneel before her gaze. The walls are lined with testimonies, medals, crutches, photos, handwritten prayers, quiet proofs of deliverance and healing. St. John Paul II called her the Queen of my heart and returned often, convinced her intercession shaped his vocation and his nation. In her eyes, millions have found not only a mother, but a warrior who never turned away. 1. Mount Tabor, where heaven kissed earth. Rising gently above the Galilean countryside, Mount Tabor barely tops 1,800 feet, yet it is sacred ground. About 300,000 pilgrims climb its winding roads and forested paths each year to reach the summit where, according to the Gospels, Jesus was transfigured before Peter, James, and John. At the peak stands the Church of the Transfiguration, built over ancient Byzantine foundations. Twin towers frame the sky. Inside, golden mosaics recall the event, while alabaster windows pour warm light across the stone. In a single blinding moment, his divine nature shone, face like the sun, garments dazzling white, as Moses and Elijah appeared and the cloud of God's glory descended. The ascent itself is part of the grace, roads through oak and pine, many choosing to walk the last stretch in reflection. From the top, the Jezreel Valley opens wide, the air clear and still. Here Peter cried, "Lord, it is good for us to be here." May these 10 holy places remind us that the road to God runs through real places and ordinary steps. Which one is calling your name? Share below, and if this blessed you, like, subscribe, and enable notifications. Peace until our next journey.